purpose. What is purpose? How do you know if you found your purpose? Are you living on purpose or living on accident? These are some of the questions that may be answered in this interview. I'm so excited to introduce to you one of our authors in this book, Finding Your Purpose, Living on Purpose Rather Than on Accident. So let's bring to the stage Kelley Thompson. Kim, it's so great to have you in this book and just to be part of, things that you're working on as well. And before we get into like the interview aspect of it, I'm curious to find out, have you found your purpose?
Well, I will tell you, yes, I have. And I'm very happy that I have found my purpose, but I will also be very honest in that I think I knew my purpose years ago, but I sidestepped it many, many times. And I think a lot of us tend to do that.
Ooh, let's hear about that. What's some of the evidence for you that you sidestepped it?
Oh man, so many different things. I realized early on, I was very much a cheerleader for other people. I was kind of the motivator in not only my family, but with my friends, and always kind of helping them to find a different way, figure it out. Look, there's something else you can do here. And that I loved doing. And then when I went into sales, I was the sales manager and again, the cheerleader for others and helping them to try and, to achieve their goals. But what happened is that as I started to get into kind of, I would say, a different identity of myself when I got married, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I do think a lot of women tend to fall into this. And I think it was more of a sort of maybe just the time period as well, in that I had role models that once they got married, they kind of gave up what their dreams were, their aspirations, their goals. Maybe they weren't working anymore because it was just kind of what was going on in society at the time. And it's what we follow. So it was like, wow, how do I balance this? How can I actually have my career and do what I really want to do? And at the time I was president of my Toastmasters organization. I was doing a lot of speaking. I was doing a lot with entrepreneurial groups, real estate and financial advisors, and speaking to them about, goal setting and intentions and going after these dreams. I owned a franchise in the personal development industry, but man, I didn't know how to balance that. And I started following my husband's career around the world or around the country. And I kind of saw myself pulling back and going, wow, I want all of these things. I want to be a mom. I want to be a wife. I want to be present. But at the same time, I want this. And I didn't know how to do that. And so I honestly shut that part of myself down. And I just leaned into the other. Nothing wrong with that, because I've raised a great family. And that was a time in my life that where I want it to be. But at the same time, I felt like I never went back to that as soon as I could have. There were times where I could have certainly stepped back into that, but I felt like I didn't know how to. I kind of all of a sudden I had this new identity. And I do think a lot of women can identify with that, where it's like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? Like, I'm this mom over here, but oh, I was that person a long time ago. And how do you wear those different hats? And I see it's starting to change. Obviously, in recent years, we've seen a big change in that. But, it is something where you're trying to go, God, how do I balance all of these things and all these people that I want to be and what I know I have in myself? So I shelved it for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic there, because we can get lost in the lives that we're living, and we can tend to, I know I did this many years, is tend to allow what other people want to kind of direct us, and then, but how do we get back to that space of but this is what I want to do,
Yeah.
and then getting to that without feeling selfish, without feeling like maybe you're failing at something. Like there's so many different emotions that can come into this. And I found myself, while you were speaking there, I found myself getting a little bit emotional. And then I started asking myself while you're talking, I'm like, why is that? Why am I getting emotional about this? Well, it's because I was that person as well for
Yes.
so many decades that I lived. I don't want to say in somebody else's shadow, because that's not what it was about, but it was like I was living for them instead of living my life.
Hmm. Oh
You
my
know,
gosh. When you say living in someone else's shadow, in sixth grade, we had to write short stories. Do you remember back in school, sometimes you would give, this assignment, and in sixth grade, it was all about starting to learn how to write. And we had to write a short story. And I wrote a short story called In My Father's Shadow.
oh my gosh.
When you say that, it was like I realized that I was living in really what was kind of the shadow of him. In other words, he was very good at sales and loved sales. And I kind of saw that. And so that was, in a sense, one of my role models, because I thought, oh, I'd love to do that, because he had some freedom in his life, a little more flexibility. And I thought, oh man, I'd like to do, I think at that time, that was something I saw and I kind of identified with. But like you're saying, a lot of times we just, we think, oh, am I going to be selfish if I step into this? Am I going to, be maybe leaving money on the table if I do what I really want to do? And how many times
Yeah.
do we hear other people say, man, you're so, like, I had so many people say, you're really good at sales, man. You can make a whole career out of sales. And yet I was really good at sales, but there was something inside me, and I think a lot of people can identify with this. I think there's something that we can feel inside of us. It's almost like, I would describe it almost like a dull ache, and you feel it, but you can't quite identify it. And I'd be in sales presentations, and people would say to me, "Man, you're really good at presenting. Have you ever thought of doing speaking, or have you ever thought of doing, a show, or something like that?" And I would say, "Oh, thank you so much." But inside, I was cringing, because I would think, do I walk away from the money I'm making? And here's where it was. How do I do it? And how many times do we stop ourselves in our tracks because we don't know how to do it? And yet that's really not what's important, but that's the thing that holds us. I don't know how to do it. I can't leave the money on the table. I can't do this. And so we pull back. We just pull
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, definitely. I know that sometimes I'm thinking about just because I'm good at something doesn't mean it's the thing I should be doing also, because just because I have a lot of skills,
Mhm.
I have 49 jobs in 36 years. I learned a lot on different jobs, right? And because of that, that doesn't mean I should be doing that stuff. And so I think that's a distinction there for us to really check in with ourselves. Somebody can say, you're really good at that. Have you thought of doing that? And then, but maybe that's just something that's just not for you. And then how do you make that distinction of, yes, I should do this because it's going to bring me money, or yes, I should do this because it really brings me true joy. So how do you decide what you're going to do, in your own business? We're going to talk about your business in a minute, but how
Mhm.
do you decide what are going to be the things that you're going to do and the things that you're going to delegate to others to do? Because that's a big delegation is a big, big topic.
Oh, delegation is a huge topic. I think just to go back to, how do you decide what you're going to do and what you step into and what you pay attention to? I think sometimes spirit will lead us to that. And some things will happen in our lives that, sometimes we think it's bad, but at the same time, it's finally just bringing us to what we are actually meant to do. And so in my case, for me, it was a matter of going through a divorce and then having a very real need for providing for my four children. And that is that's a big why right there, right? Four of them to
Mhm.
be exact. And so it was like, wow, what am I going to do? And I wanted to be present to my kids. So it was like, how am I going to actually do this? And that's when I started down this path of, not only do I need the money, but at the same time, and I understand that a lot of people need the money to fuel their dreams, and that's okay. But if you give yourself a deadline, look, I'm going to do this for a certain amount of time while I'm learning this, because our minds respond to deadlines, right? So if you can give yourself a deadline, then it's like, okay, but I'm going to transition into this. And so I didn't quite know how I was going to do it, but I knew I wanted to create an online magazine that was all about sales and personal development, because that's where I'd had my success and what I understood. But I had to get very narrow with these. That I knew I couldn't, compete with Entrepreneur and Success Magazine and all that. So, it was kind of a period where I learned all about blogging. And then from that, I wasn't making the money in blogging I thought I would. So then these other things started to present themselves, and that's when I started to pursue it. But on to the delegation part of it. At the time, I was writing the articles in the magazine. I was pulling the pictures together like you. I was doing all these different jobs and wearing all these different hats. But what happened is that I obviously spread myself too thin. And so you kind of have to go, whoa, wait a minute. How am I going to make this work? And then we start saying, well, if you don't know, but you still at least look at it and say, what would it be like if you change that how into what would it be like if I did have the help?
Mhm.
What would it be like if somebody else were writing these things? And I think when we ask those questions, we start to get our mind opens to the possibilities of how we can make that work. I couldn't afford to hire writers, but I hired college students that were English majors or journalism majors because I knew they wouldn't plagiarize and I knew that they could write fast. And for $100 an article, I was getting articles that were great, that could offset some of that and allow me to delegate. But it was a matter also of me just getting to a point where I was waking up at night and just feeling like I can't continue to do this. I mean, it's killing me. I can't do this anymore. So I think sometimes, we are almost led to a breaking point where it's like we have to take action. We have to learn to delegate, right?
Yeah, that's big. It just reminded me of, I was the proofreader for over 25 years in the court system. So in our publishing company, I was the proofreader at the beginning and realized that, again, that was one of those skills that I have, but I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so I had to end up delegating out. And I'm so glad I did because it's relieved a lot of stress because it was causing me stress, I think about it. So I want to shift gears here. Well, first of all, we're talking about the book, Finding Your Purpose, Living on Purpose Rather Than on Accident. And I love this book because, finding our purpose is something that it's a journey to get there because it literally is like you're searching, for your purpose when you get to that point in your life, if you are searching for your purpose. But you have, let's see, I have my notes here. The title of your chapter in this book is Destined for More, Unveiling Your Life's Purpose. You want to share with us, like, what is your chapter? Don't tell us what it's about. Like, how did you come up with the concept for your chapter?
Well, I watched my mom and my brother. Unfortunately, both of them are gone now. I watched them struggle so much of their lives and with really untapped and unfulfilled potential dreams and desires, things that they wanted to do and things that they wanted to create. But they would get so caught up in limiting beliefs. They would get so caught up in how do I do it? I don't know how to do it. Or I can't do it because I don't have the time. I don't have the resources, whatever it may be. All those different little things, those gremlins that get in our minds that hold us back. And I watched them die with these dreams in them. And I thought, man, you know what? There's no reason for that. There's really no reason for that because each and every one of us is born with a desire in our heart. And I truly believe that those desires are part of our destiny. It is our a responsibility really to bring those to fruition because that's how spirit expresses itself through us. And when we allow spirit to express itself through us by pursuing those passions, by going after those dreams, we start to give others, as Marianne Williamson would say, we start to give others permission to do the same thing because we start to let them see that it is possible. If we can do it, they can do it too. And I think the hardest thing for me was to witness both of them go to their graves having all sorts of talents, innate talents and gifts that they just pushed away because they lacked some self-confidence, they lacked belief in themselves, and they just didn't know how. And it really did crush me. And so that was also a wake-up call to me, like, how long am I going to keep doing this? At what point am I going to stand up? I've been doing little things here and there, but I will tell you quite frankly, Linda, I've been doing little things, but just a fragment of what I know that I'm possible of doing. And so it was kind of a wake up call to me, like, Kim, get it going, because you know what? Life's too dang short. It's just too dang short. And there's far too much out there there's far too many people out there that just waste their gifts, their innate God-given talents and gifts when they could be making a difference in the world. And that is my greatest fear. My greatest fear is that I don't want to go to my grave knowing that I have not fulfilled my purpose, because that's doing a disservice not only to mankind, but it's doing a disservice to my creator who gave me the breath of life. And I just can't live like that.
So true, so true. I believe it's our once we discover our purpose, it's our job and duty to live the rest of our life on purpose. Not on accident.
Absolutely.
It's to finding, like, what is it I should be doing today in order to live on purpose? So you can get your copy of the book at actiontakerspublishing.com/purpose. Also, you'll find over there a bunch of free gifts, one of which is Kim's free gift, which is a 1-month access to your Successful Entrepreneurs Association. Again, go to actiontakerspublishing.com/purpose to cash in on this. And Kim, what is this and why should we click on your free gift?
Well, the SEAs, I call it, Successful Entrepreneurs Association, is something that I started for my community because what I have found in working with other entrepreneurs and helping them to create their businesses and the life that they want is that really it is having the ongoing coaching, the support, the mentorship that helps people. I can give people the tools and the trainings, and I do that in here. But at the same time, it's knowing that you've got the support of other people that have already been through it, so that you can have a mentor that helps you. And so I created this as a membership community so that it's not only getting the coaching and supporting, but it's networking as well. So we can build a collaborative environment for other individuals. So that's what it's all about.
I love it. That's fantastic. Again, go cash in on that at actiontakerspublishing.com/purpose. And you can connect with Kim at kimkelleythompson.com. And that's Kelley with an E, Kelley, kimkelleythompson.com. And Kim, what is something that you would like, what's one thing that you would like our readers to take away from reading this book, Finding Your Purpose?
I think that, when you read this book, you're going to hear read so many different stories of other people that have figured this out and found their purpose. And I think at some point, what I'm hoping is that you realize that the pain of not pursuing your purpose is going to be far greater than the fear of doing so. And at some point, you just got to step out and take some action, because the more you start to take a little bit of action, even if it's baby steps at first, even if it's imperfect action, you're going to start to build that momentum. And that momentum is the thing that's actually going to light that fire under you to keep going.
Definitely. I love that. That's so good. Momentum. Take action, take those baby steps, just take some steps, take some action to make it happen. Go out there, find your purpose. And if you're looking for somebody that can help you to find your purpose, reach out to Kim, because she's definitely an expert in this area. Kim, thanks so much for spending your time with us today and being in this book, Finding Your Purpose. Truly appreciate you and everything that you do to make a greater impact on the planet.
I hear a woot woot from the dogs.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Linda. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
One of the things that I've personally found from my experience of working with Action Takers Publishing is that I've walked away with more friends than I had before, because of the relationship that you build with the authors while working in an anthology. I think it's an amazing project to be able to get published. It's a fantastic way to get published the first time, and I've almost seen people who get hooked on doing anthologies, because once that bug is bitten, you feel like you can release more and more and more and more stories, and Linda's got a bunch of titles that I think resonates with a lot of us who live in the real world.